All righty. Well, welcome everybody to the DAG monthly meeting for February 2024. My name's Eli Storch. I chair the design advocacy group, and it's wonderful to be with everybody. As you notice, we're doing a little bit of in person, a little bit of Zoom, trying to get as many folks engaged as we possibly can. So, thank you for attending in person. It's good to see everybody's face when we're all together, and thank you for joining us on Zoom. We do have a little questionnaire on our website. So if you want to tell us your thoughts on in-person versus Zoom and share that information, please go click on our website and you can tell us your preferences there. In a moment, I'm going to ask for any events or upcoming announcements. So please think of those, throw them in the chat, raise your hand, and I'll do my best to call on you if you have something to share with the group. We are recording this. In the way past, DAG events were off the record, but now that we are using Zoom and are able to share this farther and wider, we are recording. So if you go to our website, there's lots of good stuff to see there and past events to watch. So check that out. If you have any issues on your audio or anything, please message me or Nika Faulkner, our wonderful DAG fellow. We'll do our best to help you out. And lastly, please keep yourself muted because it does help our audio quality, and then I don't have to mute you. So with that, let's get into it. We got a bunch of things to talk about. First off, friend of DAG, supporter of DAG, a good friend of mine, Rebecca Johnson. You got a big day today. Tell us what's going on in Design Philadelphia.
So if you've seen anything on the social or in newsletters, the Center for Architecture and Design has been rebranded Design Philadelphia. What that means is that all the programs that the Center for Architecture and Design used to do, like our K through 12 design education program, our college programs, our annual festival, the Ed Bacon Award and the Louis Kahn Award, are now underneath the master sort of brand of Design Philadelphia. It's really an evolution of the work being very multidisciplinary, but people just associating the place with the name on the building, on the building, and also the organization as really being run by AIA and really being the Architects Club. And so that hasn't really been the practice of a lot of the work that we've been doing for the almost 10 years that I've been here. But that is definitely was the perception, right? For lots of reasons. We opened with the AIA bookstore in the front. There's lots and lots of reasons for that. And the other thing is that our K through 12 programming, our partnership with the School District of Philadelphia has really become incredibly robust. And we wanted it to feel as accessible as possible to families and students across the city that were interested in design. Right. And so Design Philadelphia is a great brand. We didn't want to come up with a new name. We had a joint board meeting between AIA and the center because AIA created the center 20 years ago and said, what's the name? And everyone said, it's Design Philadelphia. Like, why we could be here for 100 days and we'd still probably come up with that was the right name. So tonight is the launch party. We're sold out at like 400 people. So it's going to be a big event. This is what happens when you have free food and drink and a good cause. So I hope to see some of you there. It's from 5:30 to 7:30. The name of the building is the Center for Design Philadelphia. One of the sort of impetus of the changing the name of the building is that in addition to our K through 12 programming, we have 8 design associations that have sort of joined us as in-residence partners, which they get to use the space for free sometimes, similar to the way we let DAG and Creative Mornings use the space. But they also, the main thing we want from them is to recruit volunteers from their membership for our K through 12 programming, because there is no shortage of demand from the school district, right, of wanting the program in the classroom. And so we just need more volunteers to scale. We can raise dollars and we can, we can do that to sort of staff up the capacity, but we really rely because it's so meaningful to the students to meet a designer and say, I'm a textile designer, I'm an interior designer, I'm a product designer, I'm an architect. That's really transformational for the kids. And we know that's like just a core value. So tonight is also a celebration of, let's see if I can get all eight, the SEGD, the Experiential Graphic Designers, AIGA, both Interior Designers Associations, ASID and IIDA, the Landscape Architects, APA, the planners, as well as the structural engineers. They do a lot of design work. All and IDSA, the industrial designers. So all of those associations are now what we call in-residence partners, and we hope that they will continue to use our space and have meetings, but also events, exhibitions, that sort of thing. So that's what tonight's all about. And I hope to see some of you there.
I got to see the space yesterday and it's looking great. So it's going to be a really fun event. So if you can make it, make it. Go say hi to Rebecca. It's been a serious undertaking. So excited that it's moving forward.
Thank you, Eli, everybody.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. So other advocacy items. Kat, you want to jump in here?
Hi, everybody. I have an update for folks who have been involved with any of the tree plan or the tree bill. Obviously, one of the main initiatives out of the tree plan is to support urban tree canopy growth. And same with the tree bill, there are new protections in there for heritage trees. But as we're actually moving through the process and seeing how the laws actually work, the laws don't actually prevent cutting of heritage trees. It just creates some extra steps for developers to go through to get a ZBA special exception to remove heritage trees. There's sort of a test case coming up with the development plans that are down at FDR right now. So we have a ZBA hearing on Wednesday, February 21st for the special exception, and that triggers an RCO meeting that will be jointly held between Friends of FDR and Packer Park Civic as the near neighbor to talk about the tree bill and the heritage tree exception. So I thought that might be of interest to some of you. We encourage everybody to come out. You have to be a member of Friends of FDR, which you can sign up today, or Packer Park Civic to be able to vote. But it would be great to just have attendance, especially out of the landscape community. I'm going to drop some links in the chat, but if you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out to me because we just would love to have expertise in the room to watch how the laws that we've enabled over the last year, how they actually play out in tree canopy in the city. That's it.
Thank you for sharing, and please drop those links in so folks can get involved. A few other items. There is an upcoming event about the Roundhouse. Design dialogue squaring off on the Roundhouse, where a panel is going to talk about the environmental benefits of demo versus reuse, a discussion of is it good design? There's lots of thoughts on that. And in a historic city like Philadelphia with buildings and monuments as old as we have, why do we care about a building from 1962? I'll drop a link in the chat. I see Sherman Aronson in the room today. He'll be one of the panelists there. So that should be a very good event. And look for that link. I'll put that in a second. The nomination of the Roundhouse is scheduled to be reviewed and determined at the March 8th Historical Committee meeting as well. There was a discussion of what was going on there. So please take a look there, stay involved with that. There's a lot going on. Additionally, there was a recent charrette held at the new Center for Design Philadelphia. Rashida and Dominic Vitiello from Penn led that, and the results of that charrette are going to be published soon. So as links come out, they'll be shared around, and keep an eye out for those, and we'll see what sort of came out of that conversation. I know there were people in this room who attended, and it seemed like an interesting day, and I'm excited to see what conversation sort of led to in that room. Lastly on my list, on February 26th, there's going to be a memorial service for our friend and colleague Emmanuel Kelly. It's going to be at the Great Court at Drexel University. Kelly Mallow Architects KMA is going to be posting more information on that. So keep an eye on their website, and as soon as that's up, we'll share it around too. And we'll have a nice event there to honor our friend. So keep an eye out for that posting. With that, Marshall, and can I throw it over to you to introduce our next program?
Sure. Thanks, Eli, and hello, everyone. At next month's in-person meeting, we're going to hear about how plans can make Philadelphia safer, healthier, and more prosperous. Mac Rader, the president of the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society, will discuss his mission and how it advances health and well-being through horticulture. Matt also hopes to encourage us as DAG members to become advocates for including green as a must-have component of our streets, our public spaces, and buildings. And as someone who lives high in the sky, you can see the light coming in here, with no trees or garden to tend to, I'm personally very eager to become part of that effort. So I look forward to joining all of you at the Center for Architecture on Thursday, March 28th at 5:30 p.m. And it'll be fun to greet Matt and all of you in person. Thanks, Eli.
Thank you, Marcia. Nika put that in the chat, so you can go sign up. We don't need your sign up, obviously, since it's in person, but it helps us know how many snacks to get and how much wine to buy. So with that, let's get into our featured speaker today. We will have a Q&A, so as the questions come up, please put them in the chat, and we will get to as many of them as we possibly can. But it's a privilege to welcome back returning DAG champion and also a state senator, Nikil Saval. We're working on our DAG returning champion T-shirt. We'll get that to you when it's printed. So Nikil's organizing is deeply rooted in the labor movement. He's deeply committed to solidarity and justice for working people. He also has an extensive experience in community and electoral organizing. So this is great to have someone here who's working on so many things that are important to Philadelphia as a row house city. And in his career as a writer, Nikil has been a frequent contributor to the New York Times and a contributing writer for The New Yorker, covering architecture, design, and housing. He previously served as co-editor of the literary journal N+1 and still serves on its board of directors. In 2014, Nikil published his book, Cubed, A Secret History of the Workplace. So there's more. He's got a wonderful long bio, but I think that let's jump right in. Please join me in welcoming Nikil Saval.
Thank you. Thank you, Eli. Thank you, Dag. Can everyone hear me okay? I can thumbs up. Great. I appreciate this. I appreciate the ability, the chance to come back to DAG. So as people know, or people may know, I'm the senator for the 1st Senatorial District, including Center City, South Philly, East of Broad Street, many of the river wards, Fishtown, parts of Kensington and Port Richmond, as well as the Philadelphia Airport and FDR Park and Packer Park, relevant to the advocacy described earlier. So it's an honor to be here for a second time. It means that, you know, I love DAG and I love being able to address the group. I chuckled at squaring off on the roundhouse. It's not bad. You know, I just want to mention, I'm going to talk here about the whole home repairs program. Very curiously relevant to this group. I think the lecture that I gave at DAG virtually in, I believe it was December 2020. I want to say about Catherine Bauer and social housing. I have a book somehow that's out this week, that is just the text of a lecture I gave around the same time in October 2020 to the Harvard Design School, that I titled "A Rage in Harlem: June Jordan and Architecture," it covers some similar topics, but is mainly about June Jordan and her work with Buckminster Fuller in the 1960s. So just I'm plugging that. I guess it just came out. I sort of lost track of it, and it's the text of a lecture I gave. But here I am happy to talk about the whole home repairs program, which is, of course, another way of saying that we will also be talking about housing, our housing crisis, our climate crisis, disrepair, racism, and displacement. So as this group knows better than nearly other, there's a huge role that the design community can play, not just in responding to these crises, but in shifting a world that isn't just functional, but equitable, resilient, and beautiful. So, you know, I have a little bit of design history. I mean, I was a writer. I wrote a bit. I was also a labor organizer. These sort of two things came together in my book Cubed, which was about office work and office design and the connections of those two things. And sort of that sort of sense of intersection, that labor, work, the economy, and design are all deeply intertwined, and you have to kind of talk about all of those things at once, is also involved in sort of the policy work that I've been doing in office, where we can't just solve for one crisis. We have to solve for the housing crisis and the climate crisis at the same time. And so that inspired the whole home repairs program. So what I will do today is talk about the development of this concept, the campaign to make it a reality, and the implementation of the program across the state and here in Philadelphia, where we are with the program right now and what comes next. So Eli, if you wouldn't mind going to the first slide. So the Whole Home Repairs Program is meant to establish a one-stop shop for home repairs and weatherization in each county in Pennsylvania, while simultaneously building out our local workforce and adding new family-sustaining jobs in a growing field. This program is the first of its kind in the nation, making it so that Pennsylvanians can stay warm, safe, and dry in homes that they can afford. And some of the impetus for this program starts from the fact that Pennsylvania has some of the oldest housing stock in the nation. In May 2022, a survey from the polling firm Data for Progress found that 1 in 4 Pennsylvania voters lives in a home that needs a critical repair. These older homes need work, but not everyone simply can afford this work. Deferred maintenance results in homes with energy inefficiencies, which not only leads to dangerously low temperatures in the winter and high temperatures in the summer, but also imposes extremely high utility burdens on households that can least afford them. Here in Philadelphia, low-income households spend an average of 23% of their household's income on utilities alone. And across the Commonwealth, 1 in 3 Pennsylvania voters reports that their utility bills are, quote, unaffordable. And of course, maintenance that is deferred typically results in repair needs that gradually become more urgent and exponentially more costly. A household that can't afford badly needed repairs may be forced into an untenable situation: to continue living in a home that is fundamentally unsafe, to abandon it, or to sell it to a speculator for far less than it's worth and risk losing that home and thereby their community. Next slide, please. I'm sure many of us can think about a family member or neighbor who's struggling right now to hold on to a home that is already unsafe. They might be dealing with a leaky roof and mold, or they're getting older and can't get up the stairs anymore, or they fell behind on bills and are in danger of having their utilities shut off. I think we've all seen signs in neighborhoods throughout Philadelphia that say, "We buy houses." And I think we know what they signify and what they're trying to convey, which is the stability of our communities and of our social fabric is threatened when people can't afford to stay in their homes. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, and as this group knows well, our housing crisis is inextricable from our climate crisis. Pennsylvania's climate is projected to become increasingly hotter and wetter. By mid-century, annual precipitation in Pennsylvania is expected to increase 8%. With extreme rainfall events projected to an increase in magnitude, frequency, and intensity. The state's average annual temperature is expected to rise 6 degrees Fahrenheit in the same time period. Last year, globally, we experienced the hottest temperatures on record, likely the warmest that human civilization has ever seen. The tropicalization of our climate decreases the service life of building and roofing materials, increases demand for cooling and for energy, and increases maintenance costs for our built infrastructure. Next slide. So even before my office officially opened, my team and I understood that some of the first work we needed to do would be to move the needle on our statewide housing crisis. We held 3 separate Democratic policy hearings on the housing crisis. And at each hearing, we were working to ensure that the voices and experiences of Pennsylvania residents were centered. Underlying so many of the testimonies that we heard was the fact that people's homes, regardless of whether they rented or owned, or whether they lived in urban or rural communities, were unsafe. In some instances, residents shared that they had nowhere to turn because not only did they have a deferred maintenance issue, but their family members were experiencing the same hardships, so they sort of had nowhere to go. Those hardships included lead paint, lack of adequate heat in the dead of winter, water damage from burst pipes or leaky roofs and windows, not being able to adapt your home to meet changing physical needs, and exorbitant utility burdens. Across our Commonwealth, counties are engaged in a shared struggle against the detrimental effects of this disrepair, abandonment, vacancy, and displacement, and the accompanying community-wide harms that this cycle triggers. And no statewide structures, we discovered, existed that could respond to the magnitude of this need. So there are some programs that residents can reach out to for help, like the Federal Weatherization Assistance Program. But often program staff arrive at a home only to realize that a bigger structural problem needs to be fixed first. For example, you may have a leaky roof. That will mean that if your home is weatherized, it would be sealed up and mold would be induced. So you get put on a deferred list, which in Pennsylvania is actually about 10,000 people long. So residents who reach out because they can't afford repairs are ultimately stuck in the same spot. And so it was clear from our research, our policy hearings, et cetera, that we needed a more holistic approach to home repairs in the Commonwealth. Next slide, please. So we designed the whole home repairs program to build on existing federal, state, and local home repair and weatherization programs to fill 3 main gaps that were identified by practitioners that we talked to considerably. So first, what the program does is, in statute, it provides up to $50,000 of repair work for homeowners and forgivable loans to small landlords, forgivable if landlords adopt affordability restrictions, so that homeowners and landlords can make habitability repairs and upgrades for energy efficiency and accessibility. In practice, some counties, including Philadelphia, are spending less than $50,000 per home in order to stretch the money, as it were, to serve more people. Second, the whole home repairs program allocates resources for staff, county level staff, to ensure that eligible applicants are accessing the right programs in the right order to meet their needs and maximize their access to holistic repairs. So for example, with that weatherization example, you have someone apply for whole home repairs dollars, get their roof fixed, and then staff will sort of help them find out whether they're eligible for weatherization assistance or what have you, local and federal programs. Third, we heard from practitioners that even if we could put money towards home repair programs, there simply aren't enough skilled workers to be able to do the repairs at scale. And there's been a report recently on energy efficiency jobs in the United States as a whole, and there are decades of work ready and waiting for a growing energy efficiency workforce. So the program provides resources to increase retention in home repair and weatherization training programs and pre-apprenticeship programs, including the provision of cash stipends to trainees, so that Pennsylvania can build the workforce we need to meet the demand while keeping our skilled workers and the jobs they do local. Next slide, please. So we designed the whole home repairs program to meet real material needs of Pennsylvania residents. In addition to the policy hearings we mentioned, we had countless meetings with housing and energy efficiency experts. You can see on the left one of the many Zoom calls we had with the Keystone Energy Efficiency Alliance, and as well as community organizations. And on the right, that's in Reading, Pennsylvania, largely with members of Make the Road, Pennsylvania, to identify the problems and clarify the solutions. All of these groups became partners in the legislation. They helped us draft, edit, and finalize program language. So their input, in addition to that personal testimony we talked about, gave shape to the legislation that ultimately became the Whole Home Repairs Program. So on the one hand, having the kind of expertise of practitioners, but on the other hand, having the buy-in of the coalition that was going to campaign for the program meant that we had a large coalition before the program was introduced, and we could plan for an impactful launch for the program. Next slide, please. So we worked with statewide organizations like Pennsylvania Stands Up, Make the Road, Power Interfaith, the Sunrise Movement to hold a week of action in March 2022 to draw attention to the program by doing actions in multiple places across the state, Philadelphia, of course, but Reading, Lancaster, Allentown. My colleague at the time in the State House, Sarah Inamorado, who is now the Allegheny County Executive, was introduced the bill in Pittsburgh, or was from Pittsburgh and introduced the bill and had rallies in Pittsburgh. We were able to earn media coverage that raised the profile of the program and generated buzz in the Capitol when we came back for session. We then remained in constant communication with our partners to plan next steps together. We helped identify champions that outside groups could celebrate and targets that they could pressure. We coordinated lobby days, calls to the legislature and governor, a postcard campaign, letters of support from over 60 organizations, and finally a rally at the Capitol. This huge show of people power connected with our inside advocacy created the political will necessary to make the Whole Home Repairs Program a priority during the 2022 budget negotiations. And then finally, we won. Next slide, please. So it was established, the Whole Home Repairs Program, with a $125 million initial appropriation, which was an unprecedented win for housing in our state's General Assembly. Statewide, the program is overseen by the Department of Community and Economic Development, and it is administered at the county level to allow counties to use the funds to best meet the need of their residents. Nearly all counties applied to administer the Whole Home Repairs Program to their residents, showing near universal demand. All counties had to pass resolutions to determine who their principal or lead county administrator would be. So because counties have discretion over how they administer the program, the rollout is ongoing. At this point, nearly all counties have received funds, most have opened applications, and many have begun repairs. In fact, many counties have already also exhausted their funds, and to date, repairs have completed over have finished over 1,000 homes across Pennsylvania. Next slide, please. So after decades of disinvestment, what we've learned, of course, is that the need for this program is enormous. Less than a year after the distribution of funds, reports indicate that the demand for whole home repairs is every bit as big as we anticipated. Counties have reported 4 times, 10 times, and even 25 times more applicants that they could serve. In Luzerne County, applications were being accepted in person on a first-come, first-served basis, and there were rumors that applicants planned to sleep in the parking lot to secure their place in line. In Philadelphia, my office received over 6,000 calls from residents who heard about the program. And last Friday, we held a policy hearing in Allegheny County for updates on the whole home repairs program. And the county administrator testified that 96% of eligible applicants are being deferred simply because of insufficient funds to meet the need. In other words, they served and exhausted all their funds simply by serving 4% of eligible applicants. Next slide, please. So these are just to give an example of what this work is doing, or what the program is doing and where it's doing it. This is from virtually the first home to be repaired with whole home repairs dollars. This is from Elk County. The homeowners lived in their home for about a decade, and the house itself is more than 100 years old. They have family in the area, and they always wanted to move back. And as with many old homes, theirs needed repairs. Both homeowners experienced mobility issues and used canes to walk. The side porch shown here on the left was the main entrance for one of the homeowners who struggled with the steps at the front entrance of her home. The side porch was broken, and the owners actually had to place a plank to walk on the collapsing porch. The picture on the right shows some of the work being done. A new side porch to create a safe and easy way for the owners to enter and exit their home. The funds are also being used to replace their roof. They had found a leak in their attic, and for a new furnace. Next slide, please. So here in Philadelphia, our city council passed a resolution naming the Philadelphia Housing Development Corporation, PHDC, as the county administrator for whole home repairs. PHDC is working with the Philadelphia Energy Authority, or PEA, to coordinate on technical assistance, weatherization, and job training using the $21 million investment from whole home repairs. PHDC is using the funds to expand and enhance their existing programs, including their basic systems repair program and adaptive modification program. And PEA is using funds to support their Built to Last program. For years, counties and municipalities have had to go it alone, and some of the programs they developed, especially here in Philadelphia, were the seeds that we grew into a statewide home repairs, weatherization, and job training program. Next slide, please. So our work now is to ensure that the smooth implementation of the program continues and to continue the campaign to grow it. We meet weekly with the coalition that started the program, and with a goal of securing a recurring, sustainable source of funding for the program for years to come. If the program receives continued sustainable investment, we can imagine that in 5 years, we will have repaired thousands of homes across Pennsylvania, that we would be doing more homes at scale in conjunction with the building trades who have already brought in with the training aspect, that our Commonwealth would be increasing its number of green jobs at a rate that meets its potential as a leader in the green economy, and that by the 5th year, we would see work done in homes by the people who received pre-apprenticeship and job support from year 1. On Tuesday, Governor Shapiro announced a sort of vote of confidence in this plan by allocating in his budget proposal $50 million for the whole home repairs program in his 2024-2025 state budget. In addition, U.S. Senator John Fetterman and U.S. Representative Summer Lee have both expressed interest in supporting this program for Pennsylvanians and introducing a national bill to support the program, across the country. And in addition, states like Maine, Maryland, and Rhode Island have introduced their own versions of whole home repairs, which is to say that Pennsylvania has given our country a blueprint for how we can preserve our homes, create new jobs, and a skilled local workforce, and allow people to remain in their communities. I look forward to working with my colleagues in the state legislature in all levels of government, and of course this group, to expand this program and make this vision a reality. The Whole Home Repairs Program is a housing security initiative, an energy initiative, a jobs initiative, and a community safety initiative. The cumulative effect of all these things means that this program can tackle many of the root causes of community instability by keeping people in their homes and keeping these homes safe and healthy. Our work to scale up the program continues. We are fighting for every household in every county to have what they need to make their homes whole. Thank you so much, and I am happy to answer questions. Thank you again.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, folks. Please add any questions you have to the chat. And in honor of your presentation, I have someone walking on my roof right now, so I apologize if there is any background noise. So you mentioned a couple of the other states that have their own programs. Were there any other cities or states that you used as precedent, and is there data from their successes going back further?
So that's a great question. A number of states have some version of combining, say, energy efficiency and sort of ways to try to combine certain kinds of programs. But actually, there really was no whole home repairs program basically of this kind in another state, and we would be glad to replicate it if there were. To be clear, it was not simply to just create something new. Delaware, I think, had a good model that we were looking at, and I'm sort of reaching back into my memory as we did this research. I believe that there were instances in New Jersey or certain places, but honestly, I mean, I'd say that one of the main inspirations was here in Philadelphia, which was the Built to Last program from the Philadelphia Energy Authority. I would also say that we had some inspiration from the Restore, Repair, Renew program, which then Council Member Parker, now Mayor, of course, had helped bring it to shepherd into being. One of my policy staff members actually worked on that program and is now in my office. So we had sort of local inspirations, and as well as a few other states that had been, had elements of it. But in terms of the repairs for both small landlords and homeowners, the coordination aspect of it, and then the job training, there frankly wasn't a complete program, and which is why I think it's now being sort of shopped around, as it were. And we've had out in addition to the states that are doing it, we've had outreach, I would say, from a number of different states.
So you mentioned the Build to Last program. Can you talk about the landscape of existing programs across Philadelphia and the sort of navigability of it for homeowners and how this is making it better, how you can continue to improve it, and what sort of feedback people are giving you?
Yeah, absolutely. So Philadelphia has a fairly robust in some network of home repair programs, basic systems repair through PHDC. There's an adaptive modifications program, actually in part with the help of Whole Home Repairs program. There is a small landlord program that I neglected to mention that is relatively new. It's called the Rental Improvement. It's RIF. I forget what the F stands for. And then Built to Last, which is started by the Energy Authority, which was a pilot, which was essentially, to be clear, a way to layer on. It made use of some of the existing programs, but helped get those homeowners, access to energy, to solar on their roofs, for example. But you would need to get your roof repaired before you get solar on it, etc. Or you have an old electrical system that needs to be or a panel that needs updating. The money goes to that before you get the next thing. So that element of coordination and eligibility is part of it. But part of what our hope is, and what we've actually seen some success in other counties, is sort of a constituent or resident facing aspect, which is that all of that, there's so many different programs that we need to enhance and work with. But all of that sort of takes place in the background. And as a constituent, you want to just be able to apply for whole home repairs or home repair programs, and just have it be like a single application. That's the ultimate goal of this program, such that on the back end you you run through various eligibility databases for weatherization. Now we passed this before the Inflation Reduction Act, but of course there's energy efficient electric appliances and the like, that people can get rebates for. We want people to have access to that as well. So Allegheny County, we were just there, it essentially does something like this. You have a very short application that you fill out, and then there is a back-end database that things are run through. And our understanding, and we're meeting, we're speaking with the new administration here. They announced, as part of their 100 Days initiative, a one front door sort of for local programs. And our hope is that, that would basically help, work well with Whole Home Repairs dollars to essentially make it easier for people who are applying to just go to one place, and then the coordination happens on the back end, as it were.
There's a comment here about Habitat for Humanity also does critical repairs for homes that are not safe, warm, and dry, and there's a lot of information about that on their website. I wanted to jump in. Nicole Westerman had a a question that echoed some of your comments on the counties. So are you able to share any more details about PHDC's and PEA's implementation of the program, any early results in Philadelphia, and any pros and cons of different counties' approaches to implementation?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is not going to be exact data, but roughly Philadelphia has spent somewhere through Q4 somewhere around $4 to $5 million of its initial allocation. I could be somewhat wrong about this, but it's several hundred homes. I would say 400 have been repaired. The spend is in the range of, it's somewhere about, like, I think it's under 20,000 in most instances, but not exclusively. And so basically because PHDC has tended to focus on the 60% AMI threshold and below. In statute, you're allowed to go up to 80%, but there's leeway for counties to, as it were, meet their own needs as they see fit, and largely for emergency repairs. I think they've largely addressed sort of homes that are suffering like significant issues, but that are where they make sort of surgical interventions. Allegheny, but for example, has spent. It had a $13 million allocation and has spent all of it, or rather, I should say, it's all obligated. And they have gone up to 50,000. Not that they have always, it's the average is probably somewhere below that, but they're willing, as it were, to go up to 50,000 as necessary. And at 25,000, it triggers a prevailing wage requirement. They have done it. They've been fine with that. I think maybe and so they've done. I am actually going to forget right now, but over 100 homes, I would say. But I feel safe saying that much. In Indiana County, which has about 83,000 people. They've done about 25. They've received under $1 million. And they are doing something very interesting with the training aspect, which is that they're doing some vocational tech work in high school. So getting kids trained in through high school, which is awesome. Like we've been super impressed by it. And so they are very big fans of the program. And that's, we're gathering more of that information from each county. And, it's, I would say one of the interesting things is that whereas you would expect, Montgomery County or kind of relatively wealthier or certainly well-resourced bureaucracies to be the first to kind of to tackle whole home repairs. It's not exactly worked out like that. I mean, Allegheny was pretty early, but a number of them are, like Forest and, like places that are like where they have sort of minimal aspects of repair programs, and they've moved very quickly, and in some cases obligated all of their funds. And then I'm trying to think of anything else. Lehigh County, where Allentown is, they had an application where they had a wait list that they wanted to clear, and then they opened an application window that closed in 8 hours. So they're also done, as it were. So we need more money. And so it's like, I mean, we have, we hope and expect that we'll get some this year, but there's quite a significant demand, of course, as we know well from Philadelphia, but it's across the country, the Commonwealth.
So as the program grows, there's a question, would whole home repairs consider collaborating with some of these pre-existing nonprofits like Habitat, like Rebuild Together Philadelphia, both from a, collective knowledge, but also workforce development kind of stance to increase the reach of the program?
So yes, and in fact it is. I didn't want to neglect to, or I didn't want to. I don't want to suggest that in fact they're not. In some counties actually Habitat is the lead administrator, and in Philadelphia I believe Habitat and Rebuilding Together are part of this kind of sub-grantee network in that. Again, PHDC is the lead administrator, and this is true in many other counties, right? There's a lead administrator that then sub-grants to a number of existing entities, PEA, RT, Rebuilding Together Philadelphia, Habitat, ECA, the Energy Coordinating Agency, for some of the training. The Laborers District Council is also doing some of the training aspect. So there's that sort of collaboration, and it's meant, the program both is meant to encourage and requires to some degree that collaboration is occurring across the Commonwealth. And again, in some instances, Habitat is in fact the lead administrator.
So, question about energy efficiency. You talk about, the work that you've done with that group. I think there's a bunch of buckets of repairs that need to happen. Some are water infiltration structural, some are accessibility focused. Is there a future that this branches into different types of programs and you have an energy efficiency focused program, or is the goal to retain, sort of the bucket and keep, just fill the bucket as much as you can so you can touch on all types, or are there any repairs that would get prioritized under this program?
It's a good question. I would say our thinking on the program was just, it's fairly broad in terms of what is licit under the program. It's essentially anything that impedes the high performance of a home. So in other words, so there's, but our hope was essentially that we would try to treat as many different issues in a home. It's rare, I would say, that it's exclusively a utility burden that is specific to a home, or an outdated appliance. It's usually much more than that in any given home. So you end up doing much more to fix a home. I would say that my personal hope is that there would be, and this is something we hope to work on over the next few months, is that there would be significant coordination on the climate incentives that are, again, some of which are relatively new to the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act. And so we sort of, without predicting that, we anticipated it in the sense that with the coordination aspect. So that's our hope. And I think there's some question about how much these rebates can actually be functioned in some ways as grants. I mean, we're still grappling with it. What the direct pay function in the IRA can enable, green bank, outlays. There's just so much more. There's so much there that's my personal hope. But again, we're sort of still grappling with that fact. So to go back to the kind of question, I don't know that energy efficiency would ever become its own sort of thing. I mean, it's certainly, I don't want to foreclose that. Maybe there's a reason to do that. But because our experience is that the holistic aspect of the repairs has been sort of, is so normal. Like, it's just everyone, like the people who are getting this to begin with need everything, roof, utilities, your appliance, whatever, that it's hard to imagine extricating that. But I don't, maybe that would be a useful programmatic thing. That hasn't been the case so far.
So a couple more technical questions. Will this include remediation of functional knob and tube wiring, which is a huge barrier to insulation and air sealing for Philadelphia homes?
Yes, it does. Yeah, that's already been because that's been that has been stuff that has been worked on already in some of the homes that have been repaired for whole home repairs. But it goes back to the previous question. We need to do that in order to exactly for this sorts of insulation and sorts of work that we otherwise need. But again, also for electrification and the like, which and I should specify, to be clear, that there's nothing that mandates electrification. There's not, the program is, as it were, agnostic on that question, but it's certainly licit within the program guidelines. So, but knob
So
into
then,
wire, yes, we do fix it. That gets fixed, or can.
so
Yeah.
a micro question from Richard Gliniak. For seniors in Ward 3010 accessing funds, how should they access funds? It looks like they need to fill out a PHDC housing benefits tool form that seems to take you to the Built to Last of the PEA website. Does that sound correct as to the way that they go about that?
Yeah, that is the current, that's correct so far, but we actually need to, we're trying to, I'll just say that one of our goals is to smooth that out. It's frankly a little confusing for residents here in Philadelphia. And so like the goal of I think of the the current administration is to as they announced, is to create a sort of one front door for all of this. So currently, yes, they should go to PHDC and follow the application form. But if they have any issues, please let us know. And we'll put our contact information in the chat, but that's the place to start.
So pie in the sky question here. I saw a fellow DAG returning champion, Ken Weinstein, on here. I'm not sure if he's still on, but you're developing a workforce, you're bringing more people into this field. Do you look at Philadelphia's housing stock, much of it unoccupied, as a way to work with young developers and start bringing some of this housing stock back online? Because there's a lot of discussion about if we could get the Philadelphia row house communities all back online, we'd have plenty of a mix of affordable and workforce housing to go around. But we need, the young developers, we need the contractors, we need the right people to do that. Have you thought about extrapolating it to that level?
So I would say that it overall, this is a sort of a preservation program, without obviously being about designated or historic buildings. But there is, I want to say that the program isn't meant to treat abandoned or unoccupied homes. It focuses on homes with owners or small.
Absolutely. I'm talking future, as you're building a new workforce that is capable of all of these repairs.
Oh yeah.
Have you thought about a future of partnering with some of these development groups and it's an opportunity to use this workforce for more than just repairing homes that are currently occupied? That was the pie in the sky part of it.
That would be great. Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. I think we would, with a revamped land bank, whatever, there's just sort of like things that there's a huge amount of possibility there. There are states that have been experimenting with kind of a state level, as it were, public developer that could also help coordinate. I know New York State just introduced legislation to that effect. Rhode Island, a few others. How that would function, there's some questions there, but like, oh, sure, yeah, that would be amazing. We're sort of taking it one day at a time, but yeah, I think it would be amazing. And certainly it's something that I had hoped to see and campaigned on. And I think there's plenty of potential and with as the and a number of different developers in Philadelphia and environs that would be, have already do versions of this work and would do, it could be excellent. Yeah, for sure.
So a question on how this interfaces with HUD's home rehab program, and has HUD played any role in the development of the program?
No, so this is not, it doesn't, we have not coordinated with housing and urban development. It is not, it's because it is overwhelmingly for low-income private homeowners and again, small landlords. So it doesn't interact with HUD and HUD criteria, which doesn't mean that there isn't a role to do that through the state. And, but no, we're not working with housing and urban development.
So a couple of questions on existing character and architectural character.
Oh,
Are is
I'm sorry, Eli. Can I
yeah,
intervene
yeah,
for 1 second?
yeah, go ahead.
There was one thing I did mean to mention, which is that there is one interaction. I apologize for interrupting. The is that the small landlord program, there is an interaction with housing choice vouchers, which is not exactly what the question was getting at, but insofar as we lack homes, that we lack a number of apartments that are meet HUD criteria for housing choice vouchers, you are the loans are the loan program, at least in statute, and some cities are following this, or I'm sorry, counties. You can get up to $50,000 to make a unit meet HUD criteria, and if you do that for a housing choice voucher carrier, and if you do that, that sort of loan becomes forgiven and it turns into a grant. So there is that interaction, I would say, with HUD, which I know is not exactly the question, but just wanted to bring that up.
So, in terms of some of the older houses, are there any monitoring of exterior renovations as it relates to their original architectural character? Does the program use any design guidelines for exterior rehabs? Best practices, for retaining original window openings, anything like that? Has that been incorporated into the program?
So it does it's not part of the program at in statute, and at a county level it sort of depends on and it depends on the it would depend, like, sort of, for example, in Philadelphia, we haven't really heard about it, I have to be honest, like, to whatever extent whole home repairs dollars have also been used on designated homes. My best guess, and I don't think it's too far off, is that most of the homes that are getting dollars are not designated, or not in historic districts, or have overlays or what have you. I don't know that for sure. So it would really depend on the county level criteria. They're not in statute. So insofar as, yes, this is a preservation program, it isn't specifically about historic preservation in that sense. Which is not to say that isn't meritorious. My wife is an employee of the Historical Commission, just as full disclosure, but we and I support it, but we're just, that's not part of the program.
So another interesting question from Nicole Westerman about, in cases where you trip that, I think it was the 25K, where you trip into prevailing wage requirements, how does that affect the workforce development piece of the program, and the involvement of unions, and just how does that change the workforce development piece of the project?
Yeah, it's a good question. We're still sort of gathering information on what counties have gone up to 25 or just below, and what counties have exceeded it. Just a preliminary, obviously, I would say that, like, not obviously, but Philadelphia has tended to try to remain below it. But we, at least from our conversations in Allegheny County and Indiana County, they were initially worried, not unless Indiana, I will say, like, was worried about the threshold in terms of just the wage rate, et cetera, and whether that would actually decrease whether they wouldn't be able to find available contractors, it would reduce the amount they're able to pay. But simply the repairs cost that much. I mean, often they just go, it just takes you above, and you don't want to, like, leave things undone. Two, the experience has been less, the rate has been less of an issue than the kind of prevailing wage paperwork issue. And so that, to me, as we heard this, that's sort of almost reassuring in a way, because then you're like, oh, if it's a paperwork issue, can't we solve that in some way, and so that's also been a conversation here in Philadelphia, just informally, I would say, with some of the building trades and the like, where they're like, well, we can help with the paperwork, etc. But we're still gathering information on that. There is, overall, I would say, and this is less to do with prevailing wage, there is a shortage of available contractors across the Commonwealth. That's something that the training dollars are meant to solve. But it's going to take time, frankly. You know, we foresaw that problem, and that doesn't mean that the problem has gone away. And so it's just the program's been a year in operation, and so we're trying to address that. So yeah, I mean, you know, Philadelphia has, just on again back to it, has a huge list of minority contractors and the like, but which is great. Allegheny County also, I think 8 out of their 12 contractors that they've been using are minority or women owned. They are going above, they are triggering prevailing wage. So it doesn't fully, you know, I think it doesn't always correlate, you know, so we're trying to gather that information.
So if someone has been approved for the Built to Last program, can they still apply for the whole home program?
If they are approved, it may just be that they are actually getting whole home repairs dollars in, like, they're, because part of the program is funded with, they're receiving some money through whole home repairs. So basically if your home is getting repaired through Built to Last, it's very possible that you're actually getting money through whole home repairs, just as if you're actually getting some basic system repair money, you're getting whole home repairs dollars. So I know that's a little confusing, but just the way that the program is operating in Philadelphia, there isn't a portal where you say, like, I want whole home repairs. You go to PHDC, and then it sort of funnels you what our preference is in everywhere is that you just go through, because people know about the program, that they go apply through a portal that indicates somewhere that there's whole home repairs, you know, that they're affiliated with the program, and then whatever programs actually are doing the work are happening in the background, essentially, so that it's not as confusing. It's you have the least amount of confusion as a homeowner or a tenant or small landlord, but you have all the work is done on the back end. So yeah, so in other words, it's sort of up to PEA to determine what else you're eligible for, if that makes sense.
So the next one's a comment, just to sort of hopefully guide you as you think about this program more in the future. Just back to the concept of design guidelines. P. Riley here is sharing that having design guidelines applying to all neighborhoods, not just historic districts, is desirable because bad rehabs affect the desirability of the neighborhood by altering the streetscape, and good design is respectful of the character of a neighborhood, makes good sense aesthetically and in real estate values. So, you know, of course, that is hard to incorporate into legislature, but I think it's legislation. But I think it's something that's worth considering as the program grows, to make sure that, you know, the neighborhood character, people aren't just staying in those homes, but there is quality and consistency across those neighborhoods.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, I guess it's a question. You know, this for me is a question of, I mean, it would be great to do it across at a state level, as I'm just thinking, you know, but if it's sort of, and I mean, it would, in Philly in particular, just given the existence of the commission of kinds of, not just designation, but it sort of feels like where do you do it, right? Does it happen at the county level? Does it happen at the state level? I agree. I think I agree with the point, to be clear. As I'm thinking through it, it's like, where would it happen? How would it happen best? It's a good question, but I agree with it.
Certainly not an easy one, but one to maintain in the conversation. So a question about names on deeds and how that affects your ability to apply. I know that's something that Philadelphians face across all neighborhoods is what if the name on the deed doesn't match who is occupying the home? How does that affect their ability to access the program?
So we worked with community legal services anticipating this. We didn't want tangled titles to affect your ability to access whole home repairs dollars. This is true. And so in the guidelines, you can be an equitable owner. You don't have to have your name on the deed, essentially. Like, so you can, you should not ideally be denied whole home repairs dollars because of a tangle title issue. That's meant to be addressed in the guideline, or that has been addressed in the guidelines. We feel we of course will find out if there's been any issues, but so we wanted to address that from the outset.
Wonderful. So I think this is a good place to wrap up and leave our conversation. But I wanted to go back to a question just to let you sort of restate some of the what's next. If 4% of the need exhausted the funds in one county, how long is the waiting list? How are you going to fund the other 96%? So if you could restate some of the goals and the next steps for the program, and how people can stay involved and learning about what you're working on, I think that's a really good place to wrap up.
Yeah, I mean, we're grateful for the additional 50 million that at least is proposed for the program. It goes without saying, I think, that that too is not enough, right? We don't, and we know that we need dramatically more, and that I think there could be a number of different sources for it. Some counties themselves have supplemented their allocation with their own what were originally American Rescue Plan dollars. Some people on city council in Philadelphia feel that we could, in addition, supplement the money that we've received. I think it's very likely that the largest source of funding, it just is the fact, could and would be federal money. That would also have its own issues, right? Because it would be spread across 50 states. And so even if it were billions, it would still be we'd still have a shortfall. So we need to, fundamentally, we are consistently making the case for this program, the case that it be, that we grow the number of contractors, that it grow, as a state program. And we start to treat housing, which we simply do not at a state level. I mean, it just as a right and something that is deserving of, serious, consistent policymaking. We have no department of housing at a state level. We have a housing finance agency, which is good and does great work. But that's not the same, right? We don't have a state housing plan. We don't have, there's just, whole home repairs is just one aspect of a housing supply issue that I'm also hoping to work on, of course, an affordable housing supply. We have a lot to do, I would say. And, I hope to do this for years to come. And so this at least has, the fact that we did this, frankly, in what then was not just a divided legislature, but a fully, not that this is a partisan meaning, but a Republican legislature. I'm a Democrat from Philadelphia. Suggests that there is a coalition to be built and more, and a basis to do more on housing. And so we hope to do it, but we are looking everywhere, right? We've engaged all our federal partners. We've engaged everyone. I'm not going to stop until we can ensure that everyone has what they deserve, which is to be able to stay in their homes.
Well, thank you again for joining us, folks. If you want to turn your cameras on, we do our virtual round of applause at the end of our DAG meetings to thank you for participating and sharing with us today. I'm going to share again your office email and phone. So if people want to reach out and follow up, ask additional questions, stay involved, please do so. It's good to have more folks behind this. So. From here, we'll adjourn for now, but we'll all meet up at 5:30 at the Center for Design Philadelphia for the launch party tonight to celebrate that exciting new development. And then as far as DAG goes, March 28th with Matt Rader from PHS. That'll be at 5:30, also in person at the Center for Design Philadelphia. So thank you very much. Appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you so much, and congratulations to the Center for Design. That's exciting. I'm sorry to miss that, but I won't. I'm sure I'll be at future events. Thank you. Thanks, Dag. Thanks, Marcia. Eli. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the great questions.
Good to see you. Thank you. Bye-bye.